There is no time, no day, no hour. You listen to that song and your heart will not bleed. If your heart simply will not, it simply means you do not have a heart. Because these are what people always tell black Americans. Forget about slavery. Slavery was long time ago. What happened in the plantation was long time ago. We are in the new era. It has even gotten to the point that they have literally influenced some of these black Americans that literally do not know their stance, that they will come up and talk about it as well and be like, why are people that look like me selfish? I've literally seen a video where a black guy was literally saying black Americans are selfish because they always want to play the victim's card or blah 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 blah. But do you know that even up till date, the people that literally own slaves, some of them are still alive? Do you know that? Do you know that some of them are still enjoying life? But the pangs that have literally been inflicted in most of these kids that you guys are literally saw before this particular clip, how do we explain that? How do we forget that? Welcome to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. Let's dive into a very deep topic that is important to talk about. Disclaimer: this is just for educational videos. Let's go watch and let me know the honest truth in the comment section. I'll come back with commentaries.
Imagine this. You and your entire family are asleep in your home, peaceful, safe, and happy. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, strangers break in. They're armed. They beat your father, they chain your mother, and they drag your children out of bed crying. They don't speak your language. They don't even care about your rights because they're not here to negotiate. They load you onto a filthy ship, and for weeks you're shackled in your own waste. You're barely fed with people dying next to you. You hear screaming, you see children being thrown overboard, and this is not war. This is business. When you reach their land, they sell you like cattle. Your family's ripped apart forever. Your name is taken, your language is forbidden, and your God is erased. And your body, well, it belongs to them now. You will be worked until you die, and your children will be born into the same horror. Your grandchildren will never know freedom, and 400 years later, their descendants will look at your descendants and say, why can't y'all just get over it? The transatlantic slave trade wasn't just bad, it was a multi-century genocide masked in economics. It wasn't just physical slavery, it was a erasure of entire cultures, families, languages, and futures for profit. If that had happened to your family, would you just move on?
Every time that someone says that we as Black people just need to get over slavery, I feel the need to remind them that slavery lasted almost as long as America has been a country for. America has been an independent country for 249 years, and slavery lasted for 246. And I also feel the need to remind them that slavery was only abolished 160 years ago, meaning that my great-great-great-grandma was a slave. If that isn't put into perspective, the fact that the effects of slavery are still existing to this very day, I literally don't know what else will.
Black Americans, why can't you move on from slavery? Africans have moved on from their colonial masters. This is the question that is usually being asked. Well, this is few answers to that question. Africans got their independence in their own land. Black Americans never did. They had to build in a country that enslaved them, on a system that was built to bring them down. So it's not about moving on, it's about surviving what never ended.
America was not ever prepared to run without slavery. That's why during Reconstruction and Jim Crow, chain gangs became popularized, prison labor became popularized, up until even now, because prison labor is pretty much legalized slavery. And that's why prices have been raised so high and the minimum wage is still what it is. It's because now you're having to work, more than one job. Once upon a time, you could work one job and provide for your entire household. Now you can't do that. Both parties, if you have two people in the home, both adults have to work, and sometimes even two jobs. Sometimes, and what they even tell you, well, if you have your degree, and there are people who have a degree that are not able to find employment right now, because America never created a plan to run without forced labor. They never anticipated Black people voting, women voting, natives voting. They never anticipated us being in the spaces where we can earn a higher living. All these mass layoffs is essentially getting rid of the middle and upper middle class. So then people are going to be forced to take, jobs in warehouses, or do a lot of laborious work, which is absolutely no shade to, but a lot of those jobs don't pay what you need to pay when you live a certain life, and even when you just kind of want the basics. So, very interesting. Food for thought. I love you. Be well.
Every once in a while, I think about how when I was in Europe, I met several black people. And every time I met a black person, they were African. And every time I would ask them, where are you from? Because I'd be trying to look at their features and try to see if I see anything in me so that I could find out where I'm from. Now, I am clearly of African descent. However, I am a so-called Afro-American, and we don't know where we're from. So I ask them where they're from, and they'll tell me where they're from. Then they'll say, where are you from? And I'll say, I'm from the United States. And they're like, no, where's your family from? Like, where are you from originally? Like, where in Africa? And I would say, I don't know. And they would say, what do you mean you don't know? And I would say, well, you know, the whole chattel slavery thing, how they like took us from our homes and now we don't know where we came from. And they would be mind boggled. They would have no idea what I'm talking about. And they're like, what? Like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you don't know about slavery? And they're like, we know about slavery, but we don't. I'm like, you don't know African Americans are people who were kidnapped from Africa and like torn away from their country, their language, their people? And they were like, no. Gosh, that's really messed up. This one guy said, that's tragic. I mean, and it is. But how is it that none of them have ever heard of chattel slavery? Like, do they think that all the black people are here working and sending money home to their family? Like, who do they think we are? Well, clearly, I wonder, like, do they think we're native to the United States of America? Which the Moors would say, bingo, got it. But that is like so mind-boggling to me, because how did y'all not notice 1 million people missing? Like, y'all ain't go, where's my cousin? Anybody seeing any of our cousins? Y'all ain't come after y'all cousins? Not one. Not one. And I met at least 10. None of them ever heard the story about Africans being stolen from Africa and sent over to the islands, over to the United States. They never heard of any of that. Somebody got some explaining to do. Now I know it's somebody on TikTok with all the answers. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I will never forget when a creator got on here and said that one of America's problems is they have managed to make slavery and the civil rights era a part of African American people's history instead of America's history as a whole. And then I literally watched that creator's point get proven when some white guy came on here and said that we should have tests for people before we allow them to vote, because a lot of people aren't smart enough to vote. Like, you guys literally didn't do that to African Americans in this country, and Congress had to pass an entire bill in 1965 to prohibit that. Like, this is what we're talking about. A lot of you just do not learn these things because you don't think it's important enough, or you don't think it relates to you. And then you go out and say dumb, racist things like that.
If slavery was so bad, then why didn't they resist more?
They did!
There were many ways Black people resisted the institution of slavery, but they don't teach us that in school. And that's on purpose. A goal of the oppressor is to make even the idea of liberation feel impossible to the oppressed. That's why white enslavers and lawmakers, which at the time of enslavement was basically a circle-shaped Venn diagram, worked so hard to create, enforce, and propagandize around the system of anti-Black chattel slavery, to such an extent that it would seem inevitable or like the natural order of things. And it worked in a lot of ways, to the extent that this myth that Black people didn't resist against slavery has persisted for hundreds of years, for a few reasons. Enslavers were often embarrassed. Think about it. Your whole sense of self revolves around you being superior, you holding dominion over these other people. They didn't want other people to know that the people they claimed to own would be so bold as to resist. And if word got out to other enslaved people that rebellion was afoot, that even if liberation felt impossible to you, someone, somewhere, had enough hope to rebel, then maybe that would inspire hope in you. And hope is terrifying to an authoritarian, even today. Speaking of parallels between today and enslavement, oppressors, past and present day, desired to sanitize American history, to rewrite it as it was happening. Our presidents, our founding fathers, our leaders in homeland security were actually benevolent freedom fighters. In this mythology, when slavery did happen, it wasn't that bad. And if it was that bad, it wasn't their fault. The enslavers, that is. It wasn't their fault. The existence, regularity, and intensity of Black people's rebellions against enslavement prove how brutal and vile slavery was, and how brave and determined Black people and other abolitionists were in their fight for true freedom. The overwhelming feeling of it all, the attempts to normalize the cruelty, the rewriting of history even as it happens, the constant barrage of horrors. It's all part of the playbook. Like it is today, like it was during enslavement. If our ancestors have taught us anything, it is that a better future is possible and it is worth fighting for. For stories of Black Americans resisting oppression during and after slavery, be sure to like and follow so you don't miss the next video in this series. All sources that I used to create this series are listed on my Substack, which you can find at the place where those sorts of things go. You can also find information there on booking me as a public speaker. I hope you never stop learning, but for now, class dismissed.
The song you're about to hear is the voice of this woman, recorded almost 100 years ago on a bulky machine powered by a truck engine. The language in this song is thousands of years old, and many people at the time of this recording dismissed this language as poor English. But there was one man, one linguist, who did not believe this, and him deciding to record this song not only changed a family's life, but everything we know about languages. We got to take it back to 1928 to a linguist named Lorenzo Dow Turner. He was teaching at a college in South Carolina when there was two college students that walked past him speaking a language that he did not understand. When he asked other people about it, they just dismissed it and said that they were speaking poor English, but he knew that didn't make no sense. Over the years through his research, he found that this language uses over 3,000 African words from 31 distinct languages. And fast forward to 1933, he decided to go to Sapelo Island in Georgia. The recording device that he brought along with him was so heavy that it had to be powered by a truck engine, but he was able to capture voices, stories, and a song sung by Amelia Dolly. For 50 years, that song recording sat in the archives and was almost forgotten until 1989, when a historian named Joseph Opala was doing research on the Gullah people and their deep connections to Sierra Leone. So in 1989, Joseph Opala had organized the first Gullah homecoming, bringing Gullah leaders to Sierra Leone, specifically Bunce Island, where enslaved Africans were shipped out during slavery. Gullah homecoming went great, and Joseph thought he was done with his work until the end, when the people from Sierra Leone asked him if he could identify a specific family whose ancestors came from Sierra Leone, and Joseph was like, that's virtually impossible. Then he found that recording from 1933 of Amelia Dolly singing that song. He decided to fly to Sierra Leone and go from village to village asking anyone if they've ever heard of this song or these words. Joseph and his team, consisting of an ethnomusicologist and a linguist, went through their entire list of villages with no success until they got to the last village on the list. They get to the village, play the song, and a woman starts singing along. She says, "My grandmother taught me this song. This is the oldest song we know."
As I began to play the recording, to my astonishment, these women began to sing along.
He was so excited, he flew right back to the United States, straight to Georgia, to look for the children of Amelia Dolly, the woman who sang that song, and he found 69-year-old Mary Moran, her daughter. Joseph and his team shared all of the information that they found with Mary, and Mary shared her family history as well. And of course, she did not forget that song and sang it to them.
And it had a little beat to it. And I thought it was something to dance by, and I would dance by the song, not knowing it was a funeral hymn, until I went to Sierra Leone, Africa, and learned that it was a funeral hymn. But when I was a little girl around 9 and 10, I would dance by it. But now I learned better since I knew it was a funeral. And for it then, all she said, her grandmother tell her it was a I walk among a Cumberly alley, lily. Quamby, I walk among a Cumberly alley, lily. Quink. Has to really go see how you quender you. Has to really go dwell in the quink. Has to really go see how you bungle.
Because Lorenzo Dow Turner refused to believe that the Gullah language was bad English, more than 60 years later, a Georgia family was able to use that 5-sentence song to reconnect to the exact village where their ancestors came from in Sierra Leone, showing once again how deep history and language are connected. I hope you learned something new.
Native Americans could have won the war against the colonizers, but they lost because they're too good of people. If you've ever studied Native American history or read books like An Indigenous People's History of the United States or Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, you find out very quickly that the Native American people were absolutely amazing people. You see how incredible and capable and fierce these people were. And at some point you begin to ask yourself, how did they lose? Especially when they won so many battles against the U.S. government. And every time the government would lose, they would ask for peace, they would sign a treaty, and then immediately break that treaty. But when you see how many battles the Native Americans won against U.S. soldiers, you just have to ask yourself, how did they lose? And the reason is because they were too good of people. Because even though their warriors were better than the U.S. soldiers, even though they were better strategists than the U.S. soldiers, the reason they lost is because they don't have evil in their heart. They didn't have hatred in their heart. They wouldn't resort to dirty tactics like starving people. They wouldn't resort to dirty tactics like hurting innocent women and children. Whereas the U.S. Army would go into villages where they knew the men weren't there, and they would burn the teepees, and they would attack the women and attack the children. They would burn their winter supplies and starve them out. And the Native Americans didn't do this. Not only was it frowned upon in the Native American community to attack innocents, any of their tribe that did do it, they immediately turned on them. They turned on their own people, chastised their own people for committing those type of crimes. And this is ultimately what led to their defeat. Because when you're fighting an enemy that has no morals, how can you win if you actually have a heart? The Native Americans had a good heart. They had a moral compass that kept them from resorting to dirty tactics like the U.S. Army would. And they were always willing to accept peace. They tried over and over and over again. Over 300 treaties were signed by the Native Americans in the name of peace, and the U.S. government broke every single one of them. And despite all the good in their hearts and all the time and time again that they showed how good of people they were, they still history remembers them as savages, even though the real savages, the ones really doing the scalping, was the American Army. They had such good hearts that they would go out of their way and at great cost to their own well-being and safety to protect innocents. And because they were such good people and they were willing to put themselves in harm's way to protect innocents, the U.S. Army used that against them. And every time the Native Americans would come to the table for peace and sign a treaty in the name of peace, the soldiers would wait until the defenses of the Native Americans were down, and then they'd attack them anyway. Because who's going to hold them accountable? No one. It's just heartbreaking to realize that the reason why the Native Americans were almost completely wiped out, the reason they lost all of their lands, all of their rights, all of their true freedom, because they had true freedom, the reason they lost all of that is because they were such good people, because their hearts were actually good and pure, and it cost them everything.
If segregation come back, all I gotta say is, once black people start thriving, start having businesses, start having properties, start having land, and just thriving without y'all, do not come over here destroying our shit. Don't try to burn down our cities or none of that. Don't do that. You see black people hating on other white people because they got everything in the world? No. The fuck? We will stay in our corner, build our shit up, mind our business. That's it. We just want to thrive. So if y'all see us doing good, please leave us be. Leave us be. Spare us. Just like y'all spare every other race that come over here and build up and have all these businesses. Have y'all ever been to like Duluth, Georgia? Like literally, it's Korean businesses everywhere, on every block, on every corner. And it's just like, okay, cool. Nobody's messing with their stuff. So I want that same energy when we build our stuff up like that. So once you see black businesses everywhere, do not come over here destroying our shit. Damn. Okay, if y'all don't want us in y'all shit, that's okay. All right, whatever. But once we build a life for ourselves, don't fuck it up. That's all we asking. All right? You ain't even got to see us. Like, just don't come over here destroying our shit. Baby, because black people we ain't even gonna be stunting y'all. Like, that's the thing. We ain't even gonna be worried about y'all. And black people never was worried about y'all even back when there was segregation. You know what I'm saying? The only problem that black people have with white people is that white people were racist. That's the only problem that we have with white people. We have a problem that y'all don't like us based off our skin. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have a problem with that. I can't help that I'm fucking black. You know what I'm saying? Like, be so for real. So once we fucking thrive in this world, leave us the fuck alone. It'll be a real civil fucking war, because we ain't gonna let that shit slide. Do you know what generation you fucking with? Like, nah, we ain't gonna let that shit slide.
Anyways, welcome back, and we've literally seen all of that clip that I was able to roll out for you guys. The truth is, forgetting about every single thing that has happened is not that easy as people tag it or people see it to be. A lot of homes have been shattered. A lot of people have been scattered from each other. A lot of families has lost track. A lot of people have died, all in the name of this said issue. And how do we forget? How do Black Americans forget? How do people forget the impacts, the pangs that this thing tagged slavery has literally left inside of them? How do they just move on with life? The truth is, if you see some of these Black Americans talking about slavery, just let them be. Just let them express themselves. Just let them understand themselves. A lot of Africans, for example, that were enslaved and were also set free in their own land. In their own land, which means they can still trace back their roots east, west, north, and south. But it is not as same condition or the same situations as the one that Black Americans have literally gone through. I will never be party to those ones that will be like slavery is a long time ago. What are we talking about is a long time ago when we still have modern day slavery. Why are we talking about is a long time ago where we still have people going through the same thing every single day? Where we still have a lot of Black Americans coming here to cry, all in the name of one or two things. The only thing is they have modernized slavery. Imagine every single thing that is happening in America today. Is it not the same thing as getting equal to slavery, where a lot of people have that particular job opportunity, they are qualified for it, but they still cannot get the job? Where a lot of people that are supposed to be entitled to some certain kind of thing can still not be entitled, all in the name of you are Black. How do they forget? How will you beat a child, make the child to cry, and also ask the child to forget that you literally beat that particular child? Is it possible? Instead of looking for a way to make them happy, to make Black Americans happy, they try every possible thing to still inflict more pains inside of them. I bring videos here every single day where you literally see some of these white folks still trying to intimidate, shame Black Americans. And you want Black Americans to just get over slavery? Slavery was long time ago. Slavery was not supposed to be discussed again. Why are they still talking about it? Why are they still even bringing it into the picture of this modern day? There is nothing model about you being Black. There is nothing model about you being Black, especially being Black in America. I said something and I did a particular video. I said, see, you being Black alone is a problem, but the worst problem is you being Black in America, because a lot of things would just. Anyway, so sorry guys, my mom's call interrupted, so I have to just pick up and then understand what she wanted to tell me. So it's just a whole lot. It's just a whole lot to deal with. And to make the issue worse, a lot of people that own slave were literally being given reparation. They were paid for owning slave. So why is it that the people were paid for owning slave, but when it comes to paying Black Americans for being slaves, it becomes a problem? It becomes a problem. It becomes a thing of they don't need reparation. Why do we need to give them reparation? Why do we need to even talk about reparation? Why do we even need to discuss about reparation? It's just a whole lot to deal with when you are Black in America. So when next you are hearing Black Americans talking about slavery, do not, I repeat, do not tell them to keep quiet that slavery is a long time ago. For those parts of Black Americans that have decided to forget about slavery because slavery was a long time ago, no problem. Let them forget about it. But the ones that understood and know what the society is and what they are literally still going through in this set still society, we cannot just forget it. We cannot just forget it. I am not Black American, but I have a Black American mom and a Black American dad. And sometimes when we discuss deep to some certain extent, I know how hard, how heavy their hearts be. A lot of Black Americans just needed to do something to survive, just needed to do something to just move their mindset out of it. I've seen a particular content creator's video, a Black American lady, where she literally say they want us to forget about slavery. They say slavery is a long time ago, but this is my grandfather, this is my great grandfather, this is this. So if it is long time ago, why do they still have this history to those points that I have to even also listen to their pains? It's not even about the one that happened in the plantation. It's not even about, there's just a lot of atrocities that was committed to Black Americans that they cannot just forget that thing called slavery. It has been like a stigma to them. In as much as they're trying to move on, they're trying to explore, they're trying to flourish in the economy, forgetting that thing called slavery is not possible. Even me as an individual, I cannot forget that word slavery. So just leave them. Let them discuss about their thing. Let them do their thing. Let them understand themselves. Whenever they want to stop talking about it, they will. But if they don't want to stop talking about it, nobody should say Black Americans should stop talking about it. It's been long, blah, 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 blah. You're just blabbing, right? Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section, and credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for staying stick and hook with me to the end of this video. And for disclaimers, this is just for educational purposes only, not to come here ruffle on anyone's shoulder or make anyone feel uncomfortable. Anyways, thank you so much for staying sick and hook with me. And yes, with that being said, with no further ado, I like what I say in my videos. I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah.